My name is Bad Eater, and I'm here with two panelists this week. Riley wasn't able to make it, but you're listening to an exclusive hungover episode of the Jittery Zeitgeist. Today we're going to be talking about the JPEGMafia album Veteran, and I'm here with two hip-hop heads, Trixie the Golden Witch and legendary producer Cranberry Dave.
Hey.
What's happening, guys?
I'm doing pretty all right. Hey, where do we find your stuff at, Bad Eater?
That's a good question. badeatermusic.bandcamp.com.
You find my music at trialofthegoldenwitch.bandcamp.com, and you can follow me at goldenwitchfire on all social media.
You can find me at youtube.com/cranberrydave or soundcloud.com/cranberrydave for all your music needs.
So, how's everybody doing? Why are we all hungover today?
Big party.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We went to a live event of Who Are These Podcasts, and I got smashed. I don't know about you, Dave.
Yeah, I got... I was there, and we were at some bar, and someone very drunk offered to buy me a drink, and I just said, could I get a shot of whatever? I think it was Maker's. And instead of a shot, I got like half of a glass.
Oh boy.
He's like, load this kid up with Maker's.
Oh boy. Well, that'll do you. Yeah. The event was like, it started at like 1 p.m. and ended at 3:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I remembered it being 3.5 hours, but now I'm realizing it must have been 2.5 hours. But I got drunk enough by the end of just that show during the day that I barely remember much of the rest of the night.
Oh boy.
It's like a blur of chaos. I remember having a really good time and laughing through the entirety of the show, though. Just nonstop. So it was really good.
No, they definitely brought it. That wasn't just you being intoxicated. I only had like a beer and a half in me by the end of that show, and it was amazing.
So that's what we did. How come you're hungover?
I'm hungover because I'm infinitely stupid. I drink probably the same way, like, what's a constant in nature? Like, plants get photosynthesis. It's just like a part of my nature. Sometimes I can't really help it. It's just, I'm bored. Let me just open something up. So it was one of those kinds of days. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm stressed out. I already had a ginger ale. Gonna go ahead and dive into one of these 6 bottles of wine my friend brought over. So I'm sitting there, drinking my wine, enjoying myself. I get a call on the phone. It's my friend Big Gay Will. Big Gay Will wanted to come over and get drunk with me. I thought that was a great idea. So we spent the whole rest of the day just media hopping. We'd get like 10 minutes into a show, and the next thing we're on YouTube, and the next thing we're playing Minecraft, or next thing we're fucking just nonstop, like, media overload, and like we're just developing drinking games for each media we're doing. Like, each time this YouTuber says this word, we have to take a drink.
Yeah.
And so it gets to a point where you never want to get blackout drunk in your own apartment. Like, it's the safest thing to do, but it's the saddest. You know what I mean?
It's true. It is true.
Like,
there.
Because half the fun of being blackout drunk is the next morning when you have to like do a Professor Layton game in your head, like mystery, like puzzle piecing what you did last night and where you were.
Yeah.
That was me when I woke up today, and like I opened up my phone and I saw these really good photos of me and Mint with the review girls from Who Are These Podcasts, and I was like, I had to like take a second to be like, when the fuck did we take these pictures? Like, and it was like during the day, like it's broad daylight in the background. So I'm like, great. I was already like losing track of time by like before the sun was down. But the most blackout drunk I can remember being in my own room was like whenever BoJack Horseman was first like getting popular after the first season, and I marathoned that while drinking a bottle of wine, and by it like it was like early in the morning by the time I finished, and there's that one episode where he's like listening to Death Grips and having like a bad trip, and I was like in exactly the same state of mind because I had just gotten to that point of being way too drunk while watching the episode. So afterwards, I'm just staring at myself in the bathroom mirror, listening to I Break Mirrors at My Face in the United States by Death Grips, convincing myself not to break a mirror with my face in the United States. I just kept going like, I could afford to replace it. It'll be fine. It's like, no, your face though, but your face. So yeah.
There's
luckily
just getting wine drunk and listening to Death Grips is such a funny combination.
Yeah. It's appropriate, and I did it many times.
Fan.
Yeah. Box wine
No.
at that.
Oh yeah, just like barefoot.
No, I'm talking my box of Franzia. It's fucking pink Moscato flavored.
Oh.
Just
You're such a girl. Like pink Moscato, breaking mirrors with your face. No, so another thing we do on this podcast, other than talk about how fucked up we get, is about hip hop.
yeah.
So, I remember there was a little bit of a debate Trixie was having with herself
Yeah.
over which lyric is worse.
Yes.
She let us know that she wants us to weigh in on that. Hit me.
And I want everyone to weigh in because I think these are two lyrics that have been made fun of a lot. And one of them is from Eminem about someone else, and the other one is about Eminem from Machine Gun Kelly. One of these, the first one being Eminem's, that's an awfully hot coffee pot. Hope I don't drop it on Donald Trump. And the other one being, his fucking beard is weird. I think both of these just contextually sound so insanely corny that like they both seem on the face of it really awful, and I get why they've been made fun of to death. I don't know if I hate either of them though, because they're very fucking memorable.
Let me weigh in right off the bat.
Okay.
The only cringy part about that's an awfully hot coffee pot, hope I don't drop it on Donald Trump, is the Donald Trump part.
Right.
If it was not name dropping a specific person, or at least a person as contentious as Donald Trump,
Well, and
it
even
wouldn't be as
worse, just
cringy.
contextually, that it's in a really serious political, like no beat, spoken word poetry style, like serious. Got all my homies behind me, and I'm in the black, hoodie, and I'm like really dropping serious bars. And then he gets to that's an awfully hot coffee pot, but at the same time, that is the only lyric anyone remembers from that freestyle.
Yeah.
And it is kind of the whole message of the freestyle. Hey, fuck Donald Trump. Like put as simply as he could in a rhyme that everybody could remember. So in a way, I think it is the only powerful part of the message that he actually was trying to send there.
Yeah.
Let me jump in real quick. I wanted to weigh in on this because I hate both of these lines. I hate Eminem's worse because it embodies everything I don't like about Eminem.
Okay.
The very performative technical skill of making every single rhyme work,
Yeah.
or word rhyme. The very performative this is what I care about, and if you don't like it, then two double middle fingers.
Right.
Fuck you. That really just cringy 12-year-old that just got on fucking Reddit mentality of everything. I don't care about nothing and fuck you. Just flipping you off so hard they're hurting their middle fingers.
Yeah.
And so all of that combined, even if Donald Trump was involved in that at all, he wasn't a part of that, I think the part of it that actually kind of saves it is that it's about Donald Trump, because on the surface level, if it was just that rhyme and you heard it in an Eminem song, it would be so fucking bad that you wouldn't remember it. It would be in an ocean of "oh come on" bars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you hear a bar and you just go, "Oh brother, shut the fuck up."
Right.
And it's definitely one of those. He attaches that on it, turns it into an entire spoken word thing with a bunch of dangerous characters staring at him, and it's better than it.
Look,
Go ahead.
I can imagine a version of this line where it's Slim Shady going that's an awfully hot coffee pot. Hope I don't drop it on my mom's crotch. And you hear a burning sound in the
Yeah.
background. That would.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would have a problem with that if
I
it
don't
was
believe
in a
in
funny,
breathing. I'm just
silly.
leaving lungs in your air in your lungs to hear you keep begging for me to seep it. That's as ridiculous as
Yeah.
awfully hot coffee pot.
It's just the delivery, the way that he puts so much emphasis on it in, again, a very serious song, and it does kind of end up transcending the song in a way that makes it extra goofy. You're just really, this is the I actually remember the entire hook to Mosh, the anti George Bush second term song that he made, where he had a cool music video and he had real shit to say, and it's a good song. It was similar to White America, but had that grandiosity and epicness. It was we are literally going to fucking ruin the world and all die if we don't stop George W. Bush from being president again, and he put out the song kind of really late into the election season, so any effect it could have possibly had. It definitely didn't.
Yeah.
But
Even out of touch with the things he's rapping about. Just,
I think he
let me drop
probably-
this at the tail end.
yeah, I think he probably got fucked over in some way that
Oh,
caused
I don't
that,
doubt
but-
it. I mean, the way they release music, you can record something and that, like, fucking Kendrick's most recent album was all finished, like, in 2020.
Damn.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like, TDE pisses me the fuck off so much because all the time, if you go to any of their artists' Twitter or Instagram, it's them going, dude, this album's been ready for like a year and a half, and Punch or Top Dog just won't release it because they have to control like build up for it. And if you notice, Kendrick's last album had like a very minimal rollout, and that's because he's just switching over to PG Lang just immediately. Like, he's free, he can drop music.
It is frustrating when anytime artists are getting hung up in their labels, and like it's especially sad because Kendrick just like had the ultimate ode to Top Dog on the end of Damn, like, you know, about how like special that relationship is, and then for it to be immediately like, yeah, well, then they held on to my next album for 2 years because of the pandemic and ducking the social gimmicks, and you know, now fuck it.
It's so fucking annoying because, I mean, you can't name one single hip-hop roster that has that big of a gap between projects. Like, you look at Ab-Soul's last album to now, nothing. You look at SZA from Control on, there's nothing else. Like, the last time they all were forced to drop something was because Black Panther had a release date, and they had
Right.
to.
Yeah.
They hold their musicians' projects forever. And you look at Schoolboy Q. Schoolboy Q, he shouldn't be a 3-year between album type rapper. He should be a single rapper, like dropping singles like every 3 months, and that would have kept him relevant up until now. He could have been like Snoop Dogg.
It's kind of shocking that he's not one of the biggest rappers in the world, actually. Like, considering the hugeness of his singles, the hugeness of the albums all review well, like, there's just no reason he shouldn't be a lot more famous other than, like you said, not having enough music come out, like, at a regular enough speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get that.
I'm going to make a prediction. I believe the second that Kendrick is fully on PG Lang, we're going to have his next album in a year and a half. If we don't have some supplementary album like an Untitled Unmastered for his most recent, I guarantee year and a half turnaround on the next one.
I would not be surprised. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was less than that, because he's probably written another whole album or two in the time.
Yeah.
So,
because he was done with the album, from what you're saying, by the time the pandemic started, or around that time. So he's just been sitting there for 2 years, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And
He's talked about it. I'm sorry if we're going way too far off the topic. That was just something I was really
let's
passionate
get
about. I
back
want to
in.
get that out. Yeah.
So, did
you're
you
right.
have any final thoughts on the awfully hot coffee pot bar before we talk about the Beard is Weird bar instead?
You want to go, Dave? I've been talking it up for a little bit.
well, not anything that I haven't said already. It's a good the awfully hot coffee pot bar is that part of it is good.
Right.
What comes next is like the context around it really sucks.
I
And I
agree.
think that any of if you swapped awfully hot coffee pot for any of M's like old bars in this new thing, those bars would look stupid, kind of thing.
Yeah.
In the same situation.
Well, all right. His fucking beard is weird. From Machine Gun Kelly about Eminem. This is another place where, like, you've got a song that's got multiple kind of corny bars. It's not an incredible diss track. It's too respectful. He's like really trying to diss Eminem in a way where he doesn't seem out of pocket dissing one of the like gods of rap, but it's just out of pocket to diss one of the gods of rap.
Yeah.
He needed to have just gone all in and been like, yeah, he's a real piece of shit, you know, like, and just fucking ripped him apart for everything bad he's done. And instead, he's talking about how his beard is weird.
You get it?
I guess if his beard was really that weird, it would be one thing. His beard's not that weird.
It's kind of weird, though.
It's a little
It's weird enough
weird.
to point out. I just think that... Well, it's not the beard part of the beard that's necessarily weird.
Yeah.
It's his lips. Because his lips, like, really protrude from his beard.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I guess, I mean, I do think his beard is ugly. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think it's weird. You know, it might be weird that he keeps a beard so shitty. You know, it's just like such a forced rhyme to me that he's like, oh, what do I say about his beard? It's weird.
Yeah,
you
of
know,
course.
what a weird beard. It's like, Does anybody really take that as a massive insult if you tell them that their beard is weird?
I mean, he didn't. That's why at the beginning of the response track, Eminem's like, "Your beard's weird. Your beard's weird."
So can I talk about that for a second? Because
Yeah.
that's on my list of reasons why I like the beard is weird thing more than Eminem's, because that's actually number 2 on the little like thing I was writing here. Fucking for him to say like your beard is weird, and then he jumps into like, you know, multi-million rapper paying millions for security a year. Like I kind of see what he was doing. It didn't work, but I saw the point of it was like simple rhyme and then like multisyllabic, like really good flow type rhyme. It didn't get pulled off how it was supposed to, but so he drops that, and then Eminem, I don't think this line would have been made fun of as much if Eminem didn't start off with it on his one. And whenever Eminem says it, he goes like, your beard's weird or whatever, and then you hear him get up close to the microphone like a fucking 14-year-old kid in a tank top named Trent with spiked up hair, and he goes, shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
Like
He just sounds so fucking dumb. He sounds like a dumbass whenever he did that, and I just remembered that forever. And even then, number 1 reason why it's a better line, he's telling the truth. His beard is fucking weird.
I guess it's somewhat weird. I just don't think it's exceptionally weird, such that like it would be something that M would be insecure about or anything. I mean, he obviously grows the beard and keeps it that way. Like, I don't know.
No, the beard and the hat combo kill me, because he wears the same hat that like rappers wear when they're about to start rapping about pyramids and shit. So like that hat plus the weird beard, his face is a mess. Like his brain is like top tier, his writing ability top tier, everything, but like all the skill points went inside the head, not on the outside of it. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, he looks disheveled at all times, for sure.
Yeah.
He looks confused and out of place everywhere.
He is the least rich looking person to be as rich as he is, for certain.
It's especially funny when you see him on like an interview or a music video with like a young like real like a not a real rapper, but a rapper who dresses like a real person with a lot of money.
Right.
It's just so different, because you're right, he just looks like a confused old man who stumbled out of rehab.
Yeah.
And you got like,
he still thinks it's 2004, like he's been in prison for 10 years and he came out just wearing what he used to wear.
Mumbling, these chicks don't even know the name of my band.
like the Godzilla.
That's an awfully hot coffee pot. Is there a senior discount?
The Godzilla music video, I imagine, is Eminem like in his head thinking he's looking cool, but he's just walking through the grocery store mumbling and throwing shit down, like knocking shit off
That's
shelves.
all of his music. All of his music videos are him.
See him making that though. Like, I can actually see him making a video that is about him being like a as we are describing, like on purpose, you know?
Yeah.
Which is what I like about Eminem.
Like he comes out of the grocery store and like he has a heart attack or whatever, and then he just sees Shaquille, or not Shaquille, fucking, is it Mike Tyson? Yeah, because as he's like dying, he's like, Mike? And like, that seems like a weird thing to see.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson as an EMT.
Yeah.
So like, he's crazy. He's hallucinating all of it.
He's
Eminem dream theory.
He's deep.
That's all of his music videos. If you look at all of his music videos, in my personal opinion, which as an Eminem #1 hater, which I'm not, but like that's pretty much the persona I'm developing here. All of his music videos is definitely him thinking he looks like the coolest motherfucker on the planet and just looking terrible. Mm-hmm. Like he looks like.
Maybe that's true in the ones where he's trying to look cool. I mean, for me, growing up as an Eminem fan, I only ever really cared about the goofy songs, you know, like Without Me and The Real Slim Shady, and like, and there are some, you know, I like White America, I like The Way I Am, so there's some of the like angrier, deeper cuts that I like. But you know, for me, it was mostly about the Slim Shady persona and the wacky fun videos where he is taking the piss out of himself and he's not taking himself seriously, and he's, you know, like showing himself to be a dorky little dweeb, you know, like, and that's how he blew up. Was, hi kids, you like violence? Want to see me stick 9-inch nails in each one of my eyelids? You know, like that's our introduction to this character, you know.
Sure, but as his career went on, you saw him. If you saw the music video for Rain Man, which that is my favorite Eminem song. I don't give a fuck, but Rain Man, the music video, he has a do-rag, wireframe glasses, full Puma tracksuit. Like full red Puma
Sounds very Russian of him.
Yeah.
He's like, so in that one, he was still trying to do. I think there was a period in Eminem's life where it wasn't him telling the joke; he was above the joke in a sense, where like he could do weird, ridiculous stuff, but don't mess with me,
Right.
don't fuck with me. You know what I mean? And it kind of worked for a little bit. There was a time where especially when he was going after the Source and Benzino, where like there was a shaken fear about Eminem in the music industry for a while. And then over time, it's like watching the toughest prisoner slowly like have to put on a leg cast or get in a wheelchair, and you're like, I don't know. That's all I got to say about Eminem's looks. I'm not over here closet watching people, but you look terrible, dude.
I definitely think that the line must have stuck because enough people do agree that the beard is weird, because otherwise people wouldn't have even singled the lyric out. But yeah.
No lies detected.
I think it's, I don't hate these kinds of lines that seem so preposterous on the face of them, because they, like, if you can pull off something that's preposterous to a point where it's memorable, then that is a good thing. And like, I remember there's this really dumbass asshole YouTuber, a anime YouTuber named ForNeverWorld, who I got into a spat with one time, and he has a rap career, I guess, but he had a song that starts off with, "Let's start here. I breathe ass and eat air." Yeah, that's the lyric. "Let's start here. I breathe ass and eat air." And I was so just like confused and bewildered and like shocked by this lyric. I don't think I made it very far into the song, but like as much fun of it as I could make, I still remember that lyric. And like I remember that lyric above a lot of my own lyrics. "Let's start here. I beat ass and breathe ass and shit air." No, breathe ass and
eat hair.
Eat hair? No, it was air.
Air. That's what I meant. Sorry.
I breathe ass and eat air.
Eat air. Okay.
It's just, I don't know. It was such a strange lyric. But like I said, if it gets the noggin jogging, sometimes that's all that really matters, you know? And Awfully Hot Coffee Pot and fucking Beard is Weird both got the noggin jogging, I think, for a lot of people. And that's all we really need to say about this particular topic.
I want to add one more thing.
Yes.
A lot of times I'll like sit there and I'll try and write a rhyme out, and I'll like really try my hardest, and then at the end of it I'm always disappointed. But everybody who makes anything is always disappointed with something they make. But I look over it and I just kind of get in my head about it. I'm like, oh man, I already released it. I could have done this. I could have done that. And then I hear stories about breathing ass and eating air, and I just feel so fucking good. Like I feel so much better.
It does make you feel good. Bad lyrics do make you feel good.
And we're here to talk about Veteran. Veteran is the second studio album by American rapper JPEGMafia, released on January 19th, 2018. It's here. It's real. It's all happening. We're going to talk about it top to bottom. Not maybe every single track, but I just want to hear everybody's general opinions before we really do a deep dive. How'd you guys find out about JPEG?
Oh, man. So I found out about JPEGMafia through this album, through probably Anthony Fantano, because I'm pretty sure he reviewed it relatively early on and gave it a glowing score. And for me, it was sort of an instant revelation, but also, like, it was a lot to take in. It took me a lot of listens to be able to really parse this album and to even be able to really form opinions on like what songs I like or don't. Like, not that there's any songs I dislike necessarily on this album, but just that like it's so dense and it's got so many moving parts and the songs change so much as they go along that you like even just figuring out where a song begins and ends is very difficult on this. And for me, like, when I get into a new album, that is one of the most exciting feelings, is that everything is just so interesting that I can't tell where anything begins and ends. I felt that way about Rat King's album, So It Goes, the first, like, 15 times I heard it. And I was like, man, I just can't even, like, parse out which song is which until I've heard it enough times. This one, still to this day, I might have a little bit of issue telling you like exactly where each song ends up on, but like that sense of mystery and inventiveness and you know, post-structural, I guess, thought put into an album, all is very attractive to me as somebody who's come up through experimental hip hop, who does experimental hip hop, and you know, my music that I've released onto the internet has never quite been as like off kilter or as weird as the stuff that I actually listen to, because I've never been able to navigate like where is the space between being experimental and being accessible. JPEGMafia has made that path clear to me. And this album was the start of it. And it took me a while to totally understand it, but it really came through for me in an interview where he says, you know, I am just trying to make music that sounds good to me. Like, every song he makes, when people tell him it's like weird or whatever, he's like, yeah, I don't really get it. Like, I don't see what's so weird about it. I'm just making music that to me logically makes sense why it's good. And for like, as a listener, when I actually do like parse through what his intent is with the song, then usually I'm like, yeah, like this makes sense. I get what he's doing here. It's just so different from how anyone else would approach doing it that it takes you by surprise. You're like, what? You know, you can make music that sounds like this? You can have fucking Thug Tears. Not to get into the particulars, but just the way that song starts, the first few times I heard it, I was like terrified. I was like, what are these fucking rattling, clacking noises?
So it turns out those were him clicking a pin next to the microphone.
That makes sense.
He just tripled that up and almost made a synth out of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can hear that now. And it was such a ASMR gross feeling for me that like I hated it at first, because my read on it was he's trying to be obnoxious. Like, my read on this album at first was this is trolling. And there's definitely a huge element of that, of trolling, of fucking with expectations. The very first time it happens being on the first song, where the beat has this long ride, you know, where he's mostly doing the hook. She wanna sit on my lap. She wanna sit on my lap, like coming in and out. But there's a point where it seems like, you know, we've hit like the 16th bar. It's like this would be ordinarily where even a long intro on a song would kick in to the actual song. But instead, the kick like sputters and you hear a girl laugh and go like, ha, 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 ha. Then like the beat continues for another
Peggy.
Yeah, like 8 bars. And so right off the bat, it's like, oh, it's trolling me. Like, it's already fucking with my expectation of song structure in a way that, like, I don't know if a lot of listeners would have even got that out of it on a first listen, but just for me as somebody who was like, wow, this intro is really long, and then hearing that moment, I was like, oh, okay, you're fucking with me, you know? And but then, like, when you listen to the song again, I don't feel like I was I don't feel like it's not a negative experience that the intro of the song is so long. It's great. Every second of it is unique, and there's the way the ad-libs and all the different studio sounds and chatter is all mixed in there. It's really fun. It feels like you're listening to a bunch of people gearing up to put on this album, you know, as like a performance. And the music video gives that impression heavily, where it's like him and all these people at the, like, because it sounds like that many people are in the song, you know? So I just think it's a really fun way to set up the atmosphere of what he wants you to experience. And I feel like we were already getting into the particulars of the album before I've even asked you guys how you feel about it. So I'm going to pass it off to Dave.
All right. Well,
hold on. Before you pass it to Dave, I wanted to ask one question real quick. What's the name of the second track?
Who was in Paris?
I knew this was going to come up. Who was in Paris?
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a real
I just
one.
want to get that out of the way. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I originally got into JPEG. Well, I saw JPEGMafia first, I believe, in the Vengeance music video for Denzel Curry. It was JPEGMafia and Zilla Kami on that track, along with Denzel. And I think what initially got me at first was the name JPEGMafia. That's the coolest.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
That's why
It's
I clicked on the review for sure. Like I saw the name JPEGMafia, and I have to know what this is about.
Yeah,
but I also
it just feels like an EDM producer name.
To me, it was obnoxious at the same time, and in a way because I have an innate jealousy towards anything that I wish I had done.
Yeah.
Like anytime I see any creator, and I've kind of worked through this now that like post transition, especially that I'm like really going in a different direction with who I am as compared to like a lot of what I was trying to do was very in the vein of like the heavy metal screaming combination SoundCloud style rap type of stuff, and like I literally could not listen to like Ski Mask because it sounds too much like me. Like
really,
like Ski Mask sounds so much like Fat and Dangerous that it makes me jealous. It makes me mad because I'm like, well, this just sounds like if I like why am I not popular like this is if it sounds so much like me? But it's also because, and I know why. I'm not like actually saying that I deserve to have been as popular as him or any of those people. But it's because the industry is also more than just being a good rapper. It's all kinds of stuff that goes into. But like when I saw the name JPEGMafia and then heard the music, it was very much like fuck. But it was so far above my level that I couldn't be mad about it. Like I was just inspired because JPEGMafia is my age. I think he's slightly older than me by like a couple months.
Yeah.
So like for me, maybe a couple years. I don't know. I'm turning 31 soon, so he's around.
He's like
there.
33, I think.
Okay, so he's a couple years older than me. He's definitely like in the category of somebody I would consider a peer that I look up to. Where like, I mostly try to only look up to people who are much older than me, who have like accomplished a whole lot. But there's a few people who are like in my age group where I see what they're doing and they're doing it so well that it's just like, fuck, man. Like if I could have like. It's kind of like a talent barometer for yourself where, like, I can definitively say I am not as good of a rapper as Denzel Curry, who's, like, a few years younger than me, but I'd still put him in my generation. But, like, I can watch him freestyling when he was 16 at a level I cannot freestyle still, know, and so I don't feel bad that Denzel Curry is more popular than I am because like that's somebody who I actually admire and would want to be more like in my approach to my own career. And Peggy is at like the top. Peggy and Kendrick Lamar are like the two kings of my generation from my perspective in the rap game. Kendrick's the best experimental rapper who's popular, and JPEG is the best experimental rapper who's popular in the underground.
Yeah. But after seeing Peggy on that track with Denzel and Zillikami, I think my first response was to go and watch the Fantano review of Veteran because it was like one of the first things you see when you type JPEGMafia in 2018. Yeah. And I watched that. Fantano was very positive, of course. I think he gave it like an 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
So I started listening to it. My first impression of the first track, 1539 North Calvert, is a little different. I didn't get it at first, and I didn't listen to JPEGMafia for like 6 months after not getting it. Just because I thought it was like weird experimental like lo-fi where it was just him. Even after listening to the whole track, and I can appreciate what I missed then. Mm-hmm. But it seemed a lot more sparse than I was used to. Even once it got into the verse, like it's just basic chord progression, wonky percussion.
I'm glad you brought that up with this track because I think he was worried about that. Like you get the sense when he's like, "Hope my record get panned. At least I made you all dance." Like that song was meant to be a fun poppy kind of like dance track that I think he listened to it and was like, well, this has to be the opener because it's the most accessible song I've ever made.
Yeah.
But also, like, I have to follow that up immediately with, like, the biggest, like, check. Like, what's the word? A filter?
Yeah.
Like, the second track is a filter to anybody who was dancing and just having a good time. And if you listen to the Dead End Hip Hop review, which I have to mention because, of course, one of the lyrics that stuck out to me in this song immediately and got me hooked onto this album was, "I need a bitch with long hair like Mike Seatown." And Mike Seatown being the of the Dead End Hip Hop members, the guy who is into experimental hip hop. He's into heavy metal. He's like got a history as like a hardcore emo kid. So, you know, he is, for me, obviously the most relatable, has the most similar taste. He's the only one who, you know, loved this album. And like in that review, all of them had loved the first track. They were all like, I couldn't believe, like, it was just such amazing production. It sounded so cool. And like, they were all super into it. They loved the lyrics. And then they got to track 2 and everybody but Mike Seatown was filtered by the
the ODB sample.
Yeah. So, but for me, like hearing I Need a Bitch with Long Hair like Mike Seatown immediately made, like, I understood, okay, this album is for Mike Seatown.
Yeah.
Like, this is the audience, is experimental hip hop guy, you know. And in that review, it was also brought up that the next few lyrics make it sound like it might be a Mike Seatown diss. Mm-hmm. This was put to rest. It was not intended that way, and they've been in photos together. Unfortunately, Mike did not make it into this music video because JPEG did not realize that he would be willing to pay for his own flight to be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still a cool music video.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump in real quick. I wanted to point out 2 things. So the first thing, JPEGMafia is 32. I just looked it up, but also on the point of the second track being a great filter, the first track, it already feels like a filter to me. I mean, every single song on this album could be an intro because, especially all the singles, that's such an abrasive thing to do, is make the 3 singles of your album have long ass intros. Like the second track, which was a single, you had Baby I'm Bleeding as a single. Thug Tears, I think, was a single, and all of them had these really long, complex openers.
I think it's really just his way of like making it clear that the production is as important as the rapping to him. Like, he's doing all of it. Yeah. It's not a dude who's, you know, like, for me, I want to be on good beats, but I don't micromanage the beats, you know? Like, I just use whatever Dave sends me, whatever I still haven't gotten you my fixed vocals for the song that we've done together, Bad Eater, but
to be fair here, every beat that Dave sends is a great beat.
They're incredible. And, you know, we've got all kinds of stuff in the works. So, you know, there's going to always be... Anyway, enough about that. The fact that JPEG makes his own beats and he, like, goes into such extensive detail on them, it's like he clearly wants you to feel as passionately about the music element of it as he does. And if you don't have that, if you can't appreciate what's going on, then yeah, you're going to get filtered by it. Like, for me, it was like, I'm definitely, of any rap fan I know, probably the most, like, lyrics last person, in the sense that, like, if I hear a song I really like musically, then that is going to be the most compelling factor. And, like, there can be lyrics that are so bad that they make me not like the song. You know, like, I don't generally like even... like Playboy Cardi songs, even when they have good beats, I'm typically just like, I don't fucking care about what you're saying. Yeah. You know? But like, you know, on this album, I would argue that the lyrical content might be the weakest part. It is the most repetitive aspect of the album. A lot of what he's saying is kind of the same on each song. I would even say that probably that's my opinion of Peggy's whole career, is that like his lyricism, I don't want to call it stale, because he has tons of amazing bars, and I'm going to get into a lot of them. But
AR built like Lena Dunham, when I shoot, I don't miss.
That's one of the most fitting. And the fact that that's followed up with Trapaholics is also fucking hilarious. It makes me laugh every time.
So I want to... go ahead. I'll let you have one more, but I wanted to point out that I think Dave had a lot more to say about his initial go-through on the album.
My initial walk-through Veteran... Again, like I said, happened 6 months after I listened to 1539 North Calvert, and just this isn't what I wanted on Vengeance. This isn't him like screaming and being really aggressive.
Right.
Like if I had heard like Thug Tears or Baby I'm Bleeding first, I would have listened to the whole thing right there.
Yeah.
But it was just such a departure from the angry aggro stuff that I was looking for at the time.
Yeah.
But so eventually I do listen to all of Veteran. I'm totally hooked. I really like the just all of the wacky sound design stuff that he does, because I can hear a lot of it and really appreciate it for where it's coming from. Like, oh, this is obviously like him like grating a drumstick across like a metal grate or an air conditioner vent or something. Like, that's where this sound is coming from. And the fact that he interpolated it into this song in this way as like a percussional ear candy is just ingenious.
It is.
And so that and his hold on. His relationship with sampling is out of this world. Like, just watching how he samples and just, I guess, interpreting the ethos behind it of
I'm thinking about the Justin Bieber song that's like slowed down 800% and just like is half of the beat of one of the songs or whatever.
He's trying really hard not to have to clear samples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's part of the reason I think that he uses video game sound effects so much, because video game sound effects, I've worked with sound fonts for 8 years. I've been a acolyte of Toby Fox's for God knows how long, just like using sound fonts in music.
Yeah.
And Toby Fox has never had to pay a single cent to anyone who has made the sound fonts or the games that they're from, because fair use is so strong on those things.
Right.
There's no way that a video game song using old video game sounds is going to compete with that kind of thing.
You're getting really into the heart of what to me is the most important thing about JPEGMafia, is that it is this album in particular is the most relatable album as an internet denizen and music producer ever.
Yeah.
Because JPEGMafia is the only only rapper I've ever heard of who has definitely spent as much time on the internet as I have. And I've been on the internet since I was 11. And like I said, I'm turning 31 this year. So, like, I know everything he's referencing, everything he's talking about, but he's going, well, not everything, because there's lots of, like, really deep cut shit. I'm not going to, I don't think I know you, Peggy, but, there's lots of deep cut internet references on here that I get, and particularly, like, his reaction to the current culture on Twitter and everything that's all over this album, like, that kind of stuff is exactly where I was at. So it's like, and it's not that I hadn't heard rappers talk about Twitter, I just never heard rappers talk about Twitter in a way where it's clear that they've been on the internet since before Twitter existed, and
fuck a subtweet, pop fellas' heads off, like,
heads.
Yeah, no, I see exactly what you're saying. That's the thing about his stuff too. So this touches back on what you were saying when you said his beats are as important to the listening experience as his lyrics are, and that's what makes him a producer's favorite rapper.
Yeah.
I mean, it made me laugh so fucking hard whenever Dave had said he's trying really hard not to clear any of these samples, because if you were a beat maker, you never even think about that whenever you think about a rapper. You always think about, well, the rapper doesn't want to bite someone else's bars, but you hear JPEGMafia and he's engineering the whole thing. He's making the whole beat. You watch his live shows and it's just him and a laptop, and he just plugs the laptop in, presses play, and then starts going.
Yeah, and he's fucking ridiculously intense in his live performance.
Right.
It's the most over-the-top rock star fucking energy possible, just tearing the scenery apart. Like,
Twisted at my shows, fellas think I'm doing ballet.
Yeah, he does look like he's doing ballet up there. It's fucking, he's ripped to shit too, so he's just like throwing himself around and stuff. It's wild. But like that deep tier internet energy is a big part of what attracted me to it, and also the constant "you think you know me" and the way that he'll reference like there's a lot of calling out the alt-right on this album, which is the most deep tier internet thing that was going on at the time for sure.
Yeah.
Like, no other rapper is literally talking about fuck alt-right people, come to Baltimore and I'll gun you down. And then putting in like clips of YouTube reviews of his guns, like that was just so much for me at the time. I was like, wow, I can't, like, how is this real? Like, where did you come from? And he's obviously at the time in Baltimore, but he actually comes from, what is it, Alabama?
4chan.
Well, he grew up in New York City for the first like 10 or so years of his life. I think when he was like 12 or 13 or so, he moved down to Alabama.
Right. And then while he was down south, that's when he, probably out of loneliness from having had his entire life upended, started producing shit on the internet.
Yeah.
And he's been like, he's the kind of guy who's been downloading sound font packages since 2008. And like, I can tell from his style that he has an insanely organized, deep labyrinth of just samples. Like just everything. Like these are not, I don't think JPEG is sitting down at a computer and going, I'm going to make a song today. And then like finding samples to make a song. I think he's sitting down with and looking through just like these massive folders of shit that he's collected over the years, clicking through stuff and then going, yeah, that sounds like it would be fun. Yeah, what can I have an idea for this, you know, and then like just grabbing different stuff and then building some new stuff along the way. But like just having that sheer breadth of materials is what I think allows him to do so much, you know, and like, and also the inventiveness of it where, yeah, sometimes like something that sounds like it had to be meticulously crafted is actually just a very well distorted sample, you know, that like, that makes it seem more complicated than it is, but it's the combination of that with stuff that is legitimately complicated and is like shocking and makes you go, God damn, you had to, you really put all that in there. It's just, yeah, it's great.
It makes me a little bit worried to talk about how JPEGMafia's upbringing, like being in New York and then in Alabama and then, you know, in Japan while he was in the military. I recently watched an interview he did with Adam22 from No Jumper where he talks about, in his own words, white kids with glasses talking about his music on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, you know, sorry, but...
Do you self-identify as a white person?
I'm Jewish. Does that count?
Probably.
I'm bisexual and Jewish. Is that white?
Bisexual and Jewish. Are you allowed to be both of those? Is that kosher?
Dude, look, so let me say one thing about that. Fucking... your old Droog had one of the best fucking Jewish albums ever. He came out as Jewish on his album Jewelry, and the whole thing is deep cut Jewish references. So like he referenced Jewish shit the same way like, you know, another rapper would reference like
internet stuff.
Right. So he has one great line on there where he's like, "Oh yeah, you staying loyal to who? All they do is eat dick and suck blood like those creepy ass moils do."
Yeah.
And you know, like just that kind of shit. And it's so if he can get away with that on like fucking 770th and Eastern Park Street in New York, Jewish Mecca, then I can get away with sucking some dick and being Jewish.
Do we want to start going through this like track by track and just you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Thoughts.
So your job should be to name every single track out loud, especially the second one. Go ahead.
No, all right. Well, the first track we've already talked about quite a bit with the whole intro and everything, but I have to just talk about the opening bars. I need all my bitches same color as Drake. If they not, then they getting rocked. Put that Pyrex in the pot. I don't give a fuck if you're out there in the 6. Suck a dick. Pussy boy, you getting hit with the... And I'm really with the shits, so you not gonna take my hits. These bars stuck out to me because obviously Drake has been the biggest rapper for a long time. The first track on the previous album from JPEG is called Drake Era. So, like, that is his... He defines this as we're in the Drake era. And so for me to be the number one rapper, I have to take Drake. Mm-hmm. Drake is the target. So he starts off the album just naming the target. Drake. I need all my bitches same color as Drake. If they're not, then they're getting rocked. I don't give a fuck if you're out there in the 6, which, of course, you know, I've been running through the 6 with my woes. This is Drake. You getting hit with the strap, and I'm really with, which obviously, you know, it's just like a sound effect of a strap.
Yeah.
I'm really with the shits. Well, maybe it's with the whip, actually, because I think it's a whip sound, and that would fit the rhyme scheme. So
the way I always understood it, is, you know how rappers say, like, and I'm really with the shits? So I think he actually wrote, because he says that afterwards, but he says, if you're not, then you're getting hit with the shit, and I'm really with the shits. And I think this is like a producer thing. Afterwards, he heard that he said two of the same word and just...
Yeah.
That's
that
what
makes
I think.
Perfect sense. And I'm really with the shit, so you're not going to take my hits. So that's the most important part, is that the biggest controversy around Drake is that he steals hits from other rappers. He has taken tons of bars. You know, I did half a Zan, 13 hours till I land. I be out like a light.
Like a light.
What happened to I did half a Zan, 13 hours in Japan. You know, like song that already existed. So yeah, like That's what he's referencing, and he's literally like, Drake, if you try to steal any of my fucking hits, I'm gonna shoot your ass. Now, what I particularly loved about this line is that Peggy is implying Drake would steal these hits. Just like the most insane, like barely accessible music in the world. But I do think he would.
He's
like,
the,
I do
the thing
think
is,
Drake,
Peggy is the least plagiarizable artist in the world.
but
that I've
I
ever
think
heard.
Drake, if he
But he
had
tried.
heard him,
Drake
like
would
if you know, like after this album blew up, I do think it's very possible Drake could have heard this album, tried to find something in it he could take, and got scared as shit hearing that line. You know, like, I better not.
I think we're
like,
all misunderstanding it too, because you are a big YouTuber and Peggy is pretty much treating rapping like a YouTube channel, in my opinion. So whenever you look at YouTubers beefing with each other, it'll be two people who do two completely different fucking things, but just the way the internet works, it's so easy to just reach out and like touch somebody and go like, no, this content creator's shit, like this one. So whereas regular rappers have to have some kind of blood beef or like a gang thing going on for them to actually like hit at somebody, like Peggy is like, no, I'm throwing shots out like the internet. This is, I'm on a message board. This is an anonymous forum, except my face is on it and I'm just swinging.
Yeah, he's got the trip codes on. That's all I have to say about the opening track. If either of you wants to offer more,
I think after having thought on it for a really long time, I think that my favorite part of the opening track is the end, because as all the like the instruments and his vocals kind of fade out, you start to hear what's been under the beat the whole time, which is like a little bit of a keyboard clacking rhythm, and then I think it's Peggy like crooning underneath it, like you know, doing a because he has a really good habit of finding samples from like old soul records, like vocal samples that he wants to chop, and then just recording them himself to avoid having to sample something and, you know, clearing it. And it also has the added effect of sounding like the fade out of a Dan the Automator beat, because he'll do this thing where most of the like the primary elements are really, really loud, and then at the end it'll fade out and you'll hear what's been under the track the entire time. It's always a very good way to gently kind of float you back down to the ground at the end of a hype song.
I mean, for me on 1539, like the first time I heard it, it sounded like a Smash Brothers instrumental with drums on it. Like, he's very good at making almost like retro video game music, and that's also a big meme for producers. Like, Dave can attest to this. Every single producer has heard this sounds like a video game song, and it drives you fucking crazy. But,
well, it never drove me crazy, because
it drives me crazy.
Is actually meant to fit into a retro video game. I'm like, wow, thank you.
Yeah.
No, with my shit, like, I'll make something and I think it's the coolest shit ever, and then someone will come over and goes like, that sounds like a pause menu song off a PS2 game, and I'm like, yeah, it fucking does. Like, I'm gonna kill myself. But like,
I mean, what depends on what PS2 game that is, because if it's a Tony Hawk game, that's a compliment, because you want.
We're talking Silent Hill with scratches on the disc, like that. Like that, like really jangly guitar, like smooth pads, but it's all chopped in weird glitchy ways.
Nice.
But whenever I listen to, so like, not to bring up a song he brought up later, but Bald, right? He made Bald using a Wave Racer sample. I think it was Wave Racer. It was an old Genesis game, or fucking. What was that good ass console that had Shenmue on it? Fucking
Dreamcast.
The Dreamcast.
Dreamcast. I think it's actually like a Dreamcast game sample. And once I heard that, a lot of things started clicking in place for me. I started like feeling, because again, this is the internet's rapper. Like, he is taking all internet media and content, from like politics to entertainment to retro gaming, just all that shit, putting it together and then pumping out this just really heady, like, it almost feels like you're reading like B at certain points, and then at other points you're reading Pole, or at other points you're reading Moo. Like, it's not like deep web over here, like, but it's surface level, like alt web. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, my thoughts on NeoGAF dying, for example.
Exactly.
I don't care. I don't care.
That's such and I remember whenever NeoGAF did die, and that was how I felt. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for my thoughts on Reset Era dying in like 3 years.
My thoughts on what was his name? I feel so bad now. Rich Kiana? Not Kiana. Who was the guy that recently killed himself, owned Face Punch, or not Face Punch, but Something Awful?
Oh, Low Tax.
Low
Rich
Tax.
Kayanka.
Yeah, the jokes.
Your thoughts on Low Tax dying?
Oh,
Is that
no.
what you're saying?
No, that wasn't. Look, I've already walked myself into a trap. Let's talk about track number 2. What's the name of that, by the way?
I've heard something about, the AR built like Lena Dunham. When I shoot, I don't miss. Trapaholics. Crackers be singing like chorus. Choppa be changing they pitch. Choppa pay a rent. Choppa write a hit. Heard he wanna be a rapper. Choppa changes niche. They always want to get buck till they meet 50 Cent. Fuck a
I don't know if something's wrong with your microphone, but a couple of words got cut out there.
Yeah.
It's, I'm having issues with the internet or something, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But
all right. No, that's fine.
Those lyrics are incredible, hard as hell. This song, I mean, this is, like we said, the song is definitely a filter. And I feel like even, like, I love the sample. I think it sounds great. I think he sounds amazing rapping over it. I think that he plays that sample just up to the point that you're, like, fucking sick of it right before it goes into the reel is back section, and then you get those really gorgeous keys that totally reset the mood and like bring you down, and it's all like nice, and then the sample kind of gets reincorporated and it feels very different now that those keys have come through.
And that is an ingenious move in my mind, because as people who are like attuned to music production, we've all heard a beat that just overstays its welcome. Like, the main thing loops one too many times, even if it's not an obnoxious sounding sample like the ODB vocal chop.
Yeah.
Like, we all have heard something that just goes on for too long in the same exact way. And for him to know the exact spot where that switch up is necessary, very keen eye, Mr. Peggy.
So I'm gonna make both of you feel really bad about this, because this is the only track on the album that wasn't produced by him.
Oh, really?
What?
I did not know
Yeah, it was
that.
produced by Chef Warren.
Well, great job to Chef Warren then.
Yeah. I also,
Cool.
I kept on hearing in interviews that people really like to compare Peggy to Death Grips, and I think this is why this song.
That's part of it. I think also there are some songs. There's one on the album after this that legitimately has a part that sounds like a Death Grip song where they're like, run it up. But like, you know, it's just that for a lot of people, that's just the only experimental hip hop they've ever heard. Like, I've heard and it's not just Peggy, like every other experimental artist just gets extensively compared to Death Grips. And it's like, but they're all taking really different approaches. That's what makes it experimental. You know, like the Death Grips gimmick is that they have a drummer playing an E-kit that has weird samples plugged into it, and that's how the songs are made. You know, like, it's not similar to the way that Peggy's structuring his songs. They're actually way more straightforward, you know, like, Death Grips, I mean. Like, they both pull obscure samples and have weird, abrasive sounding music, but, you know, otherwise they're not that similar. But yeah, I agree that this, like, wacky, intense type of thing is what makes people make that comparison. And, I really like how insanely aggressive he is towards basically everybody imaginable on this song and everywhere. White boys getting mad because of my content. Y'all brave on the web. Keep it in the comments. God damn.
So I think the similarity for me is him with clipping, because something I didn't get to bring up a little bit ago.
Closer to clipping.
Something I didn't get to bring up a little bit ago, since we got a show to do, we can't always just pause on everything. But whenever I found out about JPEGMafia, I found out about it through Anthony Fantano, like a lot of people did. And with clipping, whenever I first, and this is a bingo card free slot for anybody, every episode we bring them up, but whenever I first saw like clippings reviews on Needle Drop's channel, I felt like I was a kid seeing the Mad Villain cover for the first time, where you're just kind of scared a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you see songs
Yeah.
named, like, Knee is on the Ground. Like, you see, like, fucking the whole, like, concepts of all the songs, and you see him talk about them. And for me, I was a little bit, like, frightened to check it out. Like, it was, like, a morbid
Yeah.
curiosity. So I just didn't for, like, a year and a half or so. So the same thing happened whenever I saw Veteran pop up, and I saw, like, Anthony Fantano talking about how, like, JPEGMafia sampled a police officer getting shot to death, and his screaming is in the background of one of the songs off, I think, Black Ben Carson.
Yeah.
And, like, that, like, freaks me the fuck out. Like, I can't deal with that. So
That album's intense. Like, Black Ben Carson is still an album I haven't been able to, like, regularly go back to the way that I do his other albums, because it is, like, it is even less accessible feeling in any way.
Really?
To me, at least.
I think obviously his stuff just inherently gets more accessible as he goes on. Like, LP is probably his most accessible.
For sure.
But I really think that I don't know. JPEGMafia clicked really hard when I listened to Black Ben Carson for me.
Okay.
Like, that's I didn't quite get Veteran at first, then Black Ben Carson.
Well,
I'm like,
I'll
okay,
also say
I know
that,
it.
like, part of
I
it was,
gotcha.
and I have to admit at the time, this is me being being white and getting mad at the content, but I was upset that he called out Death Grips like that on the album. I was like, this is nobody but Death Grips, but he wrote the title of the album. But I understand the criticism he was making. I think it's fair.
But that's the thing too, because we're talking about, like, him potentially being compared to Death Grips, and I've seen him get very sensitive about that, very thin-skinned about
it.
So here I'm going to try and break down why in my head they're in the same group. So if it was the 1950s and you were a white guy that played rock and roll music, I'm going to think Elvis whenever I think about you. It's just part of the thing. You're in this time period. You're making abrasive, complicated, weird sampled, aggressive hip hop. And there was a point where he started moving away from that and started to make, like, I guess, experimental R&B rap, like, with a lot of his later albums, which is fine if that's what, like, he was moving to naturally. But I feel like his music, he started shifting it to avoid comparisons with admittedly great artists. I mean, you look at Clipping, you look at Death Grips, these are very, very good, groups.
Well, and I think it's important for us to mention here, because this was something that I only learned recently through Genius, that Clipping was apparently originally signed to JPEG's label before they signed with Sub Pop. So when he says, fuck a subtweet, Sub Pop heads off like Pez, he could very well be throwing shade at Clipping there. It's hard to completely tell, because that still reads like a subtweet, but unless he's just dissing Sub Pop as a label, which also could very well be the point. Like, I'm sure Clipping's not the only thing he has a problem with.
You guys mind if I take this on a tiny tangent real quick? You just brought up something that I wanted to, like, so back to Eminem, but, like, speaking of subtweets and all that shit, you remember whenever Eminem dropped an album called Kamikaze and he says the line, and I know who the fuck you are, Kelly, and I don't sneak diss or some shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Yet that whole album is calling out Drake for having a ghostwriter. But, like, sneak dissing Drake the whole fucking time because he just he doesn't want to bring it up. I'm sorry, that's off topic, but, like, fucking, you reminded me of that, and steam came out of my ears.
All right, we got to move on to Thug Tears. Possibly my favorite song on this album.
Definitively
actually.
my favorite.
And it took a while, because, like I said, the opening clicking noises, like, had just, like, they really did give me, like, an ASMR reaction that I found unpleasant at first.
So you're not in the ASMR is good camp? You don't react positively to it?
No, I have more of, like, this feels weird. But, like,
ASMR pisses me off so fucking much. Never whisper to me, by the way.
I think
if you have something to say to me, say it loudly.
Yeah, I think getting used to the sounds, from hearing the song as many times as I have, eventually got me into it. And particularly watching the Colors performance where he does this, and he's just, like, screaming the lyrics, because on the album it's all I need is rest, and in that version it's all I need is rest, and it's just
the
like,
Colors
Jesus.
performance really sold it for me.
Yeah, and like, not even that I like that performance more, because I would say I like the original song more, but it made me appreciate, like, how goddamn good of, like, a melody it is, how catchy it is, how, like, honest, and like, the point of this song is to simultaneously talk about how he's making everyone else shed tears, but also that the way he's doing that is by revealing his own sensitivity. Like, this is where we start to peel back the mask and start to show a little bit of Peggy, you know, even though it's not enough to know Peggy. You'll never know Peggy. You think you know me.
You
never.
think you know me.
That's the
I
most
want to point
important
out that
sample,
that's one of the
obviously.
best. That's one of the best wrestling samples. That was the intro to Edge's theme song in the 2000s. Whenever Edge was wrestling,
I did not know that.
so the second I heard that, I was like, this motherfucker watched the same shit I watched when I was a kid.
Yeah. The opening, you know, all I need is rest. I am uncontested. How can I confess this? Watch how I finesse. Bound 100 bands. That part is all one of the catchiest, most fun bits he's ever done. This whole song is just really fun. Like, there's only a few Peggy songs that I'm like super into rapping along to, you know, which is a big part of it for me. Like, you know, my favorite rap songs are gonna be the ones that I really want to sing along. So like the opening track is a big one. Baby I'm Bleeding is by far my favorite. We're gonna get to that in a second. But Thug Tears was one that like snuck up on me, and as I learned it, it was like, yeah, this is really satisfying, you know. 26, no kids, talk shit, back it up. No fades, throw shade, whole game of damn. Yeah, all that's, it's just.
I think from like what I like about it most is it's just the perfect blend of all of his like various influences, like the found sound, like weird pen clicking shit, and the video game samples, just and the fact that when he does like put in a synth instrument, like when he like plays it, keys it in, does MIDI, he doesn't care about quantizing it at all. It's all just whenever it should like be. And another thing, this song to me is the most, it's probably the best evidence for your theory, Trixie, that he is just second by second meticulous about everything that he creates. Because you listen to the drum sequencing in this track, and it's never the same measure to measure. Like, occasionally he'll use a drum pattern again, but it never is the same thing for more than like 10 seconds.
Yeah. That's and it's the fact that specifically he shakes up the drums that I like so much, because that's the part that like producers tend to be the laziest about. Is like, all right, just throw that loop on, you know, whatever. And I am a big fan of the percussive elements of the hip hop beats, you know. So I feel like I want everybody to pay more attention to the drums. And then after Thug Tears is Damn.
Let me get my thoughts on Thug Tears.
What? Oh, sorry. I didn't realize
that was something I was worried about. I was like, they're both in the same room. I'm gonna be like the voice in the corner over here. It's no, but with Thug Tears, to go off of Dave's point, I think me and Trixie both came to a similar conclusion. I think I've said it like 2 or 3 times before. He makes his beats the same way a certain internet person makes their articles, like just slaving over every single measure of it. And
I really don't. I don't think he slaves over it to that extent. I think he just knows what he's doing, but in a way that allows him to do it much faster than most people do.
So here's where I disagree, because me and Dave make beats. So if I'm saying something wrong about like beat making, Dave fucking jump on me. Like, tell me I'm wrong on this one.
Yeah.
But like, Dave, have you tried to rap before?
Yeah.
So
yeah, plenty.
I'm presuming you've tried to rap over one of your own beats before, right?
Many times.
So is it like normal for you? Because this is what's normal for me. I'll make a very generic, like stripped down version of the beat that I rap over, and then once I start structuring the song, that's where I start adding in all the really weird shit, right? You know what I'm talking about? Like, you change up things, you cut out parts of it with the lyrics on it. Like, you customize it to each. So you see what I'm saying? I think Peggy does that after he records his lyrics, and I would ballpark, that's where most of the time is spent. Because, like you were saying...
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think his production process is probably, you know, fairly normal. I'm just thinking about, like... Because I watched Cranberry Dave produce Hurricane Season.
Lucky.
And so, like, yeah, it was like that, where, you know, he had the beats, then we did the vocals, and then he went and he changed things about everything in order to... you know, make the beats match the vocals better. But, like, the entire process of that album was very quick because of the fact that all of us were, like, so on point of exactly what we wanted from it. And there was, you know, a lot of... Dave didn't have to make every executive decision along the whole way either, because we were there to say like, okay, yeah, that's a good change or that's not.
Yeah.
And we could all kind of work together on it. So like, and I'm sure Peggy has people around, and like all the people who are literally commenting on the songs that he leaves in. You know, I don't really like it, or stuff like that. You know, but I think he just probably, you know, sits down and plows through doing one of these songs in like a 12-hour stint of nonstop, just like figuring it out, and then it's done. Because like he's got a ton of music, he's got to have tons of music that's not getting released. You know, so like
So I actually have a number on that. So on this album, he put aside, I think it was 19 songs, but overall he recorded 160.
Yeah. Holy fuck.
And so like Trixie over here has had a huge, like, what's the, like, not growth spurt, but just a spurt of content where it's like one banger video after the other banger video after the other. And that had to be exhausting for you. This motherfucker took, like, over the course of 2 years, put out 19 very, very high quality tracks, and God knows what his untitled Unmaster album would sound like.
I just imagine, well, it would be like the 3-sided tape from Lil Ugly Mane, just like 4 hours of eclectic weird shit that he's produced for 20 years, you know.
Dude, I would blow a guy for a hard drive dump from fucking JPEGMafia.
Right. We gotta spend less time on each song going forward, I think. Dayum luckily is like kind of a, I guess I wouldn't call it an instrumental, but I do consider this song also to be kind of a filter. This is the song that when I play this album with other people in the room, they tell me I don't want to listen to this anymore.
Yeah.
And I do sometimes skip it if I'm not in the mood for that level of
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, moving along from that, "Baby I'm Bleeding" is my favorite song on the album. The long intro, once again, seeming to troll you. There's another part where you get to like the 16th bar, it stutters, and he goes, "Ah, fuck!" implying he just was not ready.
Yeah.
Like, which I love. This is the most hyped intro of any song I've ever heard. Like, if you are getting ready to rap along with it, the amount of pump you feel, just like bouncing up and down. Then you hear that clap, 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 clap. Peggy, where you been at? And then just, this is the headbanger fucking mosh rap song of the decade. Every lyric of it is fun as fuck to sing along to. It's a song that interestingly uses repetition in a way to make it kind of more difficult, because there's so many different places that he has been out in and things he has been doing. Like, I've been out in Bed-Stuy, chilling with my feet up, laughing at the sound crowd. People trying... Sound crowd.
Yeah, you were trying to over-censor on that one. You accidentally took a couple words out.
You can catch him out in Barksdale, counting fettuccine. He's up in Brownsville, strapped with a Kimber. So, like, you know, he's all over the place. He's all over the East Coast, basically. You know, which are all places I would believe he probably, you know, has, like, spent time in. Because
this is the one with the
I doubt he's...
this is the one with the Batman v Superman
Go ahead, I'm
sample,
sorry.
Right?
I don't know. I don't remember.
No, so the sample on this one, this is one of my favorite samples in hip-hop. There was a viral video around like 2000 or 2012, that 2011 or 2012, that was in a Ray William Johnson fucking equals 3 thing. And it was weird people's laughs, and it had this one fat, like, Southern guy going, like, or whatever, and he took that hit and then shortened it down, and that's the you hear in the background.
That's really perfect, because there's another similar sample that we'll be talking about later on this album that has a similar story. But yeah, like, this, all the different places he takes you, all the stuff he's showing you, this to me is like the toughest, most abrasive song he's got about, like, making it clear the grimness of the things that he has seen, or the places he's willing to go, the kind of stuff he's willing to do and say. And then in the second part, he kind of makes his targets clear of, like, okay, who do I have a problem with that I'm saying all these things to? It's ironic you press for a cookin'. It's ironic you talk jail time, but you never see no central booking. It's ironic you hang with a person who beats women and have the nerve to call yourself girl pusher. Wow, you ain't real. Gerard, I'll tell you how I really feel. White boy better put his hands up. You know, like, it concentrates all of that rage into like a punch at, you know, a few specific things, like Promise I'll Never Go Blonde like Kanye. You know, at this point he's getting a little bit more he's like having more fun in verse 3. It feels like he's executed the target and now he's just kind of partying on the body, you know.
I love that he fakes out the Kanye thing because Promise I'll Never Go Blonde like
Promise I will never go blonde like Kanye.
Like, because obviously he respects Kanye greatly and like is a child of Kanye West in terms of his sampling.
Sure, yeah.
And just like takes great influence from him. But obviously, I think it was his interview with Talib Kweli when they talked about how, like, I mean, you try being 40. Right. He's he's saying some weird shit, but he's old, and like I know that like the Kanye that I know and listen to is still there, kind of thing.
I wanted to touch ground on that little part where he says, "You talk about jail time, never did know Central," where he's talking specifically about like one person, presumably. If you've listened to, I think for a while, maybe on iHeartRadio or Apple Music or something like that, he had like a small radio station the same way like Drake had OVO radio. And like in between songs, it almost sounded like a GTA fucking radio station. It was him just calling out specific people in Baltimore who weren't famous. Just saying like, yeah, I'm famous now, but I'm still gonna fuck you up, pull up. Like just saying their names and shit. And it reminds me of how Cardi B, she was on the Breakfast Club at some point and she was talking about like her music. And I think Charlamagne said, well, who are these women that you're calling out? Like you're calling out like, you know, very like unnamed women. Are they women in the music industry? And she's like, dude, I'm from fucking Brooklyn. Like these are just people who lived a block away from me there. I'm still mad at them.
Yeah. That's really fucking funny. No, yeah, I think a lot of personal beefs are on these albums that, like, there's a lot of JPEG lyrics that I don't think are necessarily, like, subtweets so much as they're just about people that don't matter. Like, that nobody would know who the fuck he was talking about, because otherwise he would name them, but, like, it literally would make the song incomprehensible if he, like, named every single person who wasn't even famous that he was shitting on, you know? My thoughts on NeoGaf dying... I don't care. The song's just basically a chance to list a bunch of things he doesn't care about. I think this is like it's funny in concept. Like the song is hilarious on the face of it. Listening to it, I generally agree with his sort of mentality about most of the things he's talking about and not caring. I think the beat sounds nice. But this is the first song on this album that I like, other than Dayum, I guess, that I wouldn't consider like a classic JPEG song, you know? Like North Calvert, Real One, Thug Tears, and Baby I'm Bleeding are all like God tier tracks. And this is where the album kind of like, I'm not going to say the album falls off, but this is where like it gets a little sparser with the songs that I would like actively seek out, you know, outside of listening to the whole album as a whole. Not to spoil my thoughts too much, but this album is definitely front loaded. With the best stuff. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and Rock and Roll is Dead is one of the better ones as well. And this is another one that's like just really fun. Gone with the sauce, got the 4-5 tucked in the bag. Hit him with the hawk, nah, fuck it, dog. Whip him with the strap. Like, this is the one of the most fun ones that he does live. It's one of the longer tracks. It's got lots of different moving parts. It ends up going into this like really like sing-song chorus. You know, how many cars does it take to make this shit an easy race? Which that lyric had kind of disappointed me when this album came out, only because Tyler the Creator had just come out with Flower Boy, where he does the how many cars does it take till you run out of drive and like the whole intro bars on his thing. I doubt he could have predicted that though.
You know, it's hilarious to me because hearing Tyler the Creator brought up in a JPEGMafia album conversation it sounds so foreign, but now that I'm thinking about it, I like these are two highly driven producer rappers that make outside of the make outside of the box type music, but still capture a large amount of attention.
Maddie, can you come closer?
What's up?
He didn't hear you.
Hello. I would just like to interrupt briefly to give my thoughts on track 6 of this album. I also do not give a fuck.
Hey, real quick, can you grab Riley? Can you grab Riley real quick? Is he still here?
Riley, he wants me to grab you real quick.
Yeah,
I just want to
Riley.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Riley a question.
Hello.
Hey, what's a weirder bar to you? Awfully hot coffee pot or his beard is weird?
Awfully hot coffee pot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Good. See you next week.
Yeah, for sure. Love you, bro. All right. One cool thing about this track that I really like is, and I heard about this as well in the Adam 22 interview. He said the first time he heard ASMR. No. This was on God Forgive Me, I'm a Thought, or something like that. Like his Genius Verified thing. He talked about how the first ever ASMR video that he had ever heard is what he sampled for this song. So he heard it and immediately started chopping it.
Yeah, I like the song. Do you have any thoughts on Rock and Roll is Dead?
I mean, I was just gonna say that, like him sampling ASMR sounds of like someone like whispering or whatever, like smacking their lips, is almost a parody of himself. It's very self-aware for him to do that.
Yeah.
And I like the response of ASMR, the I don't know, chemical, neurological, whatever's going on there. I have that gene. I think the whispering stuff is weird, but I think reappropriating that into a hip hop song is really great and presses the right buttons for me.
All right, well, the next song would be DD Form 214. This is one I'm reading through the lyrics trying to remember which track this is. It's got a guest feature on it. I think like one of the only ones on the album.
You're talking about DD Form 214 featuring Bobby Rush?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That is actually another person, I assume, and not like JPEG under a different alias. Or something,
it's not
right?
like J. Cole's fucking Kill Edward.
Yeah, no, this is just like a local person in Baltimore, I think.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and run it through the internet real quick, and I'll give you guys a definitive answer.
I'm literally reading the lyrics, and I'm like, I can't remember how this song sounds. Oh, this is Baby, I'm a Veteran.
Yes.
Baby, I'm a Veteran.
There's the song about him being in the military. DD Form 214, for some context, is the honorable discharge form, like the filling out to get out of the military kind of thing.
Yeah, this is one of the most like fucky sounding. Like, to me, this is there are certain JPEG songs where I can say I really appreciate what he is doing with the sound play, but it is not satisfying for me. And so this is one of those where I listen to it and I'm like, okay, I don't need to hear that like too often. Probably my least favorite track on here, actually, if I'm being honest, other than like Damn.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have anything to say about it. If you guys want to hop on to the next one.
Yeah, next is Germs. Off top, bitch, I'm rolling. Can't stay focused, I'm hopeless. This song is fucking ridiculous. And this is the one that in one of his live performances, he introduces the song by saying, like, this is the dumbest beat I've ever made.
Yeah.
Like, because it's just like this. Bloop,
this is the one with like a shit ton of beat switches, right?
Mm-hmm. It's the one that has a lot of, it's no shame.
Yeah.
You can't take, I get it, I'm red. There's no shame. It's obnoxious as fuck. And like, but it is really funny. Like, this is an example of one where I get the joke, and even though I think it's somewhat torturous, it is a kind of torture I enjoy, where I'm like, it is really fucking funny the way that the song ends in particular. It's just like a kind of a goofy track that it holds up really well live. It's another one where it's got a really good flow that's fun to hear. So, yeah, I like it. Any thoughts on Germs?
Well, that's the problem with having, a supposedly, allegedly 30-minute segment for a JPEGMafia album is you can't ever get out everything that impresses you about this album or everything that sticks with you about this album. There's just it's almost overwhelming how much content there genuinely is here for you to pick apart.
There is. It's crazy, yeah. Libtard Anthem. Word on the street, you're a libtard. I like this. This is another one of those like internet things that I instantly understood and was like, yeah, like it's poking fun of himself. I assume that he's calling him like that. This is something people say about him.
This isn't him rapping, right? It's his friend
Freaky.
Oh, you're right. It is Freaky.
Like this I don't think this one actually has Peggy on it.
No, he's not.
It's just him
Freaky.
producing it. Okay.
Word on the street, you're a libtard.
Phenomenal bar
Word on the
here.
street, you're a
Word on the
rockstar.
street, you're a Bill Maher. Word on the street, you fuck Tommy Lauren. Like,
Yeah,
Bill Maher, Tommy Lauren, like 1-2 punch.
It's so
Also,
good.
word on the street, I know my real mom really gets me as well.
I don't even know what that means.
Word on the street, I know my real mom. It's just like something that I assume that all of these lyrics are things that like people would say about you to make fun of you. Like, you know, they're gonna call you a libtard or a Bill Maher or whatever because it's like a way to dismiss your opinions. But that the idea that him knowing his real mom is enough to get him dismissed in this circle is particularly funny to me. That like other people are like, man, you know your real mom. You don't even know hardship. You don't know nothing. Like, what are you gonna talk about? Like. That's what I get out of that. It's really funny. It's a good.
So
short
before we
track.
jump on to Panic Emoji, could I say one cool thing about Panic Emoji that I just want to throw out there, and then I can stay silent on the rest of it? So Panic Emoji has one of the better, like, more understandable backstories for you to, like, understand who JPEGMafia is as an artist. Like, obviously on Bandcamp and his vinyls, the track was listed as just the emoji that says Panic. Or not says Panic, but, like, represents Panic, which is such an internet fucking thing to do, and I love it. But also, he had made a tweet in July 2018 responding to a fan where he says, that shower sample that you hear is because the song was inspired by a panic attack he had in a bathtub.
I see. Yeah, this song like gives off definitely some real emotional vibes. Like we fucked this hurts is like the third lyrics. I'm a nuisance. I'm useless. Yeah.
Fuck it. I am an op.
That is my favorite
I am
fucking
my
lyric.
own opposition.
Fuck it. I am an op. And like, so, okay, when I first heard this album, I was not yet particularly familiar with the phrase op meaning opposition. I knew it more as like operate, like,
Yeah. Like a
psyop,
like an FBI,
yeah, like a
CIA
an operative. That's the word I'm looking for. So I heard, like, you know, in this album full of internet references and 4chan memes and stuff. When I heard "I am an op," I just thought that was the funniest fucking thing someone could possibly say about themselves. And like even saying, you know, "I am an opponent," yeah, like you're saying, he's talking about him being his own opponent, more likely. I am a thought. Fuck it. I am an op.
I like the read
risk
of
risk cut.
I like the read of him being glow in the dark though. That would be very funny.
Yeah, it would be fucking hilarious. But I love that whole bit. Fuck it, I am an op. Risk cut, risk cut, risk cut. Really stands out to me as a somebody who's ideated suicide at times and has panic attacks sometimes, and I relate to a lot of these lyrics.
This track is the one where he samples the Roland dance module, which is an old stupid. It's one of those like Virtual Boy type of old pieces of hardware that is stupid and useless. Mm-hmm. It's a literal module that you would place on a rack with a compressor and EQ and all that, but it just like adds drums or like weird little like dancey loops of sounds. It's like a hardware version of Splice,
and it
just has like 800 sounds on it. It's just so stupid.
It's so
of a
fucking
thing.
difficult to use too. Like it's not.
Yeah.
It's so not intuitive. Like, you know.
No, even the hardware or the software version, like the Roland Cloud version sucks.
Oh, it's all fucking ass.
Yeah.
DJ Snitch Bitch Interlude is another very fun short
Oh my god.
track.
You want to talk about the Trapaholic sample that he used on the second track, the DJ Snitch Bitch on this one.
I love that shit.
And that's
I love how it cuts him off.
Yeah,
especially.
Well, and it's named after like a DJ / producer out of Baltimore who is close friends with Peggy. So he just named this whole track after a comic DJ guy that he knows.
I just really love that, I've only ever seen it on Peggy stuff and on So Smola's mixtape 13 Ways to Die or whatever, where it's just like a totally unrelated, like in that So Smola tape he just keeps on spamming the "damn son, where'd you find this" in the middle of his fucking verses, and it's the funny, like it's a hardcore like serious "I'm gonna kill you" song, but then it's like "damn son" or like "boom headshot" or like triple kill, like just weird Halo shit.
It's it's one of the
bitch
funny.
I shot at hole.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's one of my. I've mentioned like I have a list of my favorite little things that rappers do where they'll have like another rapper just do the ad libs only, and that always makes me really happy when I hear it.
Yeah.
But just like cutting yourself off with like a 2009 trap fucking like vocal tag always will make me fucking love your song. I don't care how trash it is.
Yeah.
I feel similar. Bitch, I shop at Whole Foods like I'm bougie. Pass the blunt, my mind is missing. Tweet my shit, I need dimensions. Way too relatable once again.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I just be tweeting to get people to give me mentions. This is a fun song. It's not one of my favorites. I like riding around the city like a side bitch and that like brah noise that cuts in on that.
Well, it just I'm looking at the lyrics and it just kind of retreads old territory of like fuck Pitchfork, fuck I don't know anyone, fuck anyone really who has not gotten to this part of the album yet. You're in the club for listening to it and not being turned off by Thug Tears or 1539.
I'm just noticing the last few lyrics on here are I hit your mama with that Conker's bad fur day. Golden eye hit him up. Perfect dark for the jog, so I zip him up. I didn't even realize
the fucking Rareware game.
Just a whole bunch of Rareware 90s N64 games all packed into the back of this. I guess I know exactly what he was doing in 1999 and 2000.
Yeah.
Like,
And like what's interesting about this for me is like he had already used this beat. Like it appeared on a like Freaky's mixtape. I'm reading this directly off Genius. It originally appeared on Freaky's mixtape Red Hot Cheeto Fingers over a year before this song came out. Like, it's one of those beats that he just, as a producer, you'll make a beat and you can give it to somebody, but in your head that's like, that's in my top 5. Like, I need to use that again somewhere somehow. And it, like, is such an internet producer thing of him to do, to reuse it on his own album, and I fucking love it.
Macaulay Culkin is a weird change of pace.
Yeah.
It's the most song on the album.
yeah.
And, well, because it's like, it's got the meat of a song, and instead of using the JPEGMafia, like, weird producer shit as the meat, that's just spice. That's just seasoning in this one.
And the seasoning, though, is such that, like, this song, I think it would read so differently if it didn't have those squeaks and squeals that are just, like, insanely harsh over the whole thing, you know what I mean? Because, like, it would come off as, like, kind of an emo song. And I guess it still does, but it's just so much more actually, like, tortured, you know, because of that stuff that's going on over it. Where, like, this song would be kind of chilled out and mellow and not necessarily, like, depressing or sad if it wasn't, like, crying at you with these, like, fucked up noises.
It's just like a really, really chill, laid back. I think it's like an old Portuguese film sample that's like on loop, this little riff that he uses, which I respect greatly because foreign films are an excellent source of samples for me. But that with the like break drums, just very simple 90s boom bap, like you're right, it's kind of two minds in that sense.
Speaking of being of two minds, what did he mean by I think I'm Rick and Morty? Does he think he's Rick and Morty?
I mean,
like, this line bothered me at first because I'm like, are you saying, like, you're just, like, saying you are the show? Or, like, are you one or both characters? I think maybe he is just saying he thinks he is both characters.
I mean, if you look at his music forever, it's always been, like, incredibly aggressive or using, like, submissive energy, especially on, like, Lord Forgive Me for I'm a Thought. So, like, I kind of see what he's saying where it's like, he talked about it in an interview as well where he said, I'm trying to strip away all assumptions you could have, where if I rap about something from a submissive standpoint, it doesn't mean I'm not going to fuck you up.
Right. He's the ultimate switch rapper. And
How dare
and
you.
also the one of the ultimate, I would say, gender fluid rappers in terms of presenting himself as, like, outright feminine.
Calling himself
songs.
Peggy.
Yeah, Peggy and a thought all the time, and, like, and a bitch, and, like, just lots of feminine slang that he uses to describe himself across all his albums. And of course on Jesus Forgive Me he was doing the whole, like, that was the dress era. That was like the don't get capped by a guy in a gown, like, era. And I think a part of that was because the, like, Veteran was came off to me at the time legitimately extremely aggressive and abrasive. Of, like, Peggy seemed like kind of a scary person to some degree. And like, I had watched his interview with the Needle Drop, so I knew that he was not, like, I knew he wasn't like a psycho murderer or something. I knew he was like a really smart, like, regular dude who kind of came up from the internet. But, like, he did come off like I actually don't want you listening to me unless you like follow these values and stuff like that. And that quickly shed away when he got to the next album, and it became much more about like presenting his actual emotions and like taking the opportunity, you know, of like feeling more secure with himself, I guess, to like express this stuff that he felt was really important to have gotten out there, regardless of how people would react to it. You know?
He kind of, as his discography grew and grew with All My Heroes of Cornballs and LP, since now, or since here, I guess, he stated that, sorry, let me get a cold, fresh read.
You're
on
good,
that.
brother.
During this era of his life, he was talking about how he was like, everything is a gatekeep. This entire album is him trying to weed out the people who he doesn't want around. That's why he constantly says cracker, stuff like that.
Exactly.
I think he talked about on Hannibal Buress's show how he just wrote it as he normally would and switched out all of the N-words with crackers at the end of the writing process. And I think he's grown a little from that, but it's still very... It's an interesting relic to see here.
I just think I think that when you are in the underground space, you really do feel like there's way more opposition than there is people who will ever understand or like you. And for him to have gotten as big as he is, like, I just don't think you could stay that angry at people in general when that many people actually appreciate what you're doing to a level and like respect you, where like he has a ton of fans who are respectful. So like, the people who feel called out by this music, if you listen to this and you feel like, oh, he's talking about me, he doesn't want me to listen because I'm white, you are literally internalizing the idea that you are who he's talking about. Yeah. You should not do that.
It's not like
you are making yourself the target instead of saying, no, I actually agree with him. I don't like those types of white people either. I also would feel upset if my white fans thought they could say all these things about me, like speak on my behalf and shit. So, I get where he's coming from.
It almost feels like you're walking, at least in my experience, it feels like you're walking a tight wire whenever you're talking about a JPEGMafia album, because it's so easy to fall into all of these groups he's making fun of that you just have to accept that everybody gets it. It's like old school South Park, where like one episode could just be about people like you. And like that's how it feels with a lot of these bars on this this whole fucking album. You know what I mean?
I had to highlight one particular line from Macaulay Culkin that I love. I play my albums front to back. It make me feel important. Apply compression when I spit so it don't get distorted. I am somebody who listens to my own albums front to back quite regularly.
Same.
I design all, like, for me, the track order is like the most important thing to me on my albums. They all have like a very clear emotional journey. They all flow into each other really well. So like, I really want them to be album experiences that you're meant to listen to all the way through. And like this album, I do think is like that. And I think, even though there are certain songs that I probably would skip through and not feel too guilty about it, like, because it is so fucking long and so varied, it does make sense as a chronological album to listen to, You trying to get through?
And that's something I had to wrestle with in the production cycle for Hurricane Season, because like I think like 50% at least of the active effort in that album was finding where the tracks fit in sequence. Yeah. And how to I spent a lot of the time just putting the 10 or so tracks on shuffle and like ordering them properly as to where it would be a whole album experience.
I had like demanded that it be Doo-Doo and then Hurricane Season, and then the rest I don't remember having an opinion about, but it's really important to structure an album well if you're an albums person, which not a lot of people actually are in this world anymore. But it's why I felt like very categorically like, okay, yeah, I'm the same type of like music listener as you are, and also the same type of like, what I get out of my albums is like a reinforcement of my own identity and like stated purpose, and like, I hear lyrics that reflect the experiences I'm still having, and so I can go, oh yeah, I have been through this. I've already talked about how to deal with this, and now I'm reminding myself, so like that can be really empowering. So I love that lyric. But that's all I have to say about
If it makes you feel any better, if I had made something like the Perfect Rapper LP, I would probably also listen to it a lot.
Oh, thank you. That one I had to take off the internet, but
Rest in peace.
yeah.
Yeah, rest in peace.
It's pretty art. It's actually not one of my favorite albums I've made, though. I kind of, it doesn't feel as conceptual to me as any of the others, because the concept was just make a bunch of good raps. Like, I had just done a couple of live shows, and I just felt like I just needed to have more, like, songs that just show that I'm a good rapper. But it mostly ended up just kind of being an emotional purge of whatever I was feeling at that time. So it didn't end up being that different from my other releases in terms of
But I can say that I'll say this as someone else who like makes music like that. I think a lot of people, whenever they do their first couple of live shows, they're like, damn, I really have just like think about it music. I don't really have dance to it music. And like it comes to a point where you're like, all right, I'm gonna bang out like 9 tracks that would go off at a fucking show, as opposed to what I normally do. And just for like your natural tendency of writing something a little bit more heady and more expressive about yourself seeping into it, I think that's what made a lot of those songs attractive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sorry if we're getting off the subject. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, I was also reading the lyrics to Williamsburg at the same time.
You're all good. Hey, let's jump back on JPEGMafia.
Okay.
I just wanted to plug your album real quick.
Thank you very much.
I really love Williamsburg. It's kind of his big anti-gentrification war cry.
Okay.
I think the album, excuse me. I think the lyric that stuck out the most here is, "You yuppies ain't real, let you live for a fee. We taking Brooklyn back, you can leave the coffee." Like in reference to all these yuppies
So
popping up
fucking
around
good.
Williamsburg, making like $10 coffee shops and just ruining it for everyone else. If I wanted bullshit, I'd just read Gawker. Also stuck out.
So I had no idea anything about Williamsburg, but I recently took a trip to Connecticut, and for my birthday, I spent some time in New York. And I went to every borough in New York. My sister-in-law is part of the NYPD, which technically makes me the cops, but it's fine. But we were driving around, and I was like, well, where's some good places to go? And she was like, well, the safest place for you to go is Williamsburg. And I was like, why? And she was like, it's the only full gentrified neighborhood we have here. Like, even if you go to Chinatown, there's like half gentrified, and then other parts where like China Mac grew up, where you're just going to get fucked up if you go there. But Williamsburg generally, so that's what's fucking hilarious about this being a gentrification song, is he took the biggest gentrification mecca and just went at it. It's so fucking good.
Well, I definitely appreciate the lyrical content now after hearing you guys talk about like what it actually means, because I hadn't parsed that out of it. It's not one of my... This is like the point at the album where I usually start... Like after Macaulay Culkin, I start to lose steam. And mostly just that, like, until, you know, now, again, I feel a little different. But, like, a lot of the references and stuff on this song just don't do much for me. Like, Young Rick Murder, I just shoot walkers. I fucking hate The Walking Dead. So, like... Stuff like that doesn't do a lot for me. It's just probably, yeah, I guess it's just a song with the least references that I like. Although I do really love the Travis Scott sample interpolation at the end, and like the whole instrumental section. It's a great use of...
That's such a weird sample, too. You see a lot of, like, Kendrick's really not famous for this, but you can see it in a lot of his music. If Kendrick drops an album in, like, 2015... a bulk of the samples are from songs that were made in 2013 or 2014. So I love that, because you get these really weird, cool, janky samples, and that's kind of what he did. He took one of the most popular songs, and a Kendrick features on that as well, and then flipped it, like a recent sample too. And it goes into what he was saying whenever he made the second track. Ice Cube had said at one point, we need to quit sampling soul records and start sampling ourselves, so we circulate the money within hip-hop instead of sending it out to other genres.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to I Cannot Fucking Wait Until Morrissey Dies?
I cannot fucking wait until we do so, yes.
This song starts off Tom, Varg, Morrissey. According to Genius, the Tom is in reference to Tom Araya from Slayer. I kind of doubt that, though, because he's not white, I don't think. But it's their reasoning being that he expressed admiration for the fascist dictator Pinochet of Chile. Maybe that's what he's talking about, but Varg and Morrissey are the funny ones for me, because these are names that I grew up with and know. Varg being Varg Vikernes, who is just a general cringe lord and murderer, who lives out on like a farm and makes weird vlogs all day, and is just mega autistic, and killed a guy in the 90s very famously to kind of set off the black metal globalization, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Morrissey...
Varg is one of those guys that the more you hear about him, the less you think it's cool. Like, you hear the general story of, like, he's a black metal guy that killed another guy, and they used it in the album cover, and then the more you read it, and you're like, this guy's a fucking dork.
Well, because, you would have thought he was, like, some insane, dark fucking badass from hearing that story back then. And then, like, once you saw his vlogs, you're like, oh,
This guy's just some fucking nerd.
Yeah, this guy
Like, this
sucks.
is a guy that would work at Walmart that would, like, kill his roommate. That doesn't make him sick. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And then Morrissey is the lead singer of the Smiths. I love the Smiths. I love his lyricism. I love his vocals. He is a piece of shit. He's said and done many dumb, weird things. And Peggy specifically in an interview, like, mentioned what had inspired this was, like, some weird racist shirt he had made about, like, a political
It was a
issue
shirt
going
that
on.
said,
he made, like,
it was a shirt that said,
Baldwin,
I
like,
wear
shirt.
black on the outside because black is how I feel on the inside, and the shirt just has a black guy staring at you.
It's James Baldwin. That's a quote from him, who's like a black activist writer, whatever.
Yeah, I saw a fucking interview with James Baldwin. Now that you bring it, like, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just that's what inspired it, and I totally get it, even as a fan of Morrissey. And I've seen people say, like, be like, "Oh, Peggy, come on, man! Like, you can't be like that. Morrissey's like a legend." And it's like, yeah, but guy, I mean, he also isn't doing anything anymore other than shit that pisses people off, like Peggy. So I totally appreciate where he's coming from with that. And obviously, it's a little bit tongue in cheek. The song is mostly funny. You know, and statements like "fuck a Johnny Rotten, I want Lil B." It's similar to "Rock and Roll Is Dead" in that it's in the category of, like, you know, stating like all this old media, all this white people media that used to be worshipped by the music industry is, like, fading off, and we're the new wave. You know, experimental hip hop is the new rock and roll. So.
I like Fifth in His Face got him singing a C in reference to the high C that's, like, impossible to, like, it's one of the highest notes if you're like a guy, especially.
Is it like you better count your blessings for free?
Higher than that.
Okay.
It's like Mariah Carey trying to embarrass you.
Okay.
Yeah, this is obviously this is on the tail of the bar about how white people can't sing as good, can't keep a key. In other words, Fifth in His Face got him singing a C. Well, he can sing good when I have a gun in his face when he's pleading for his life, like a little bitch.
There is another lyric almost exactly like that earlier on the album too, though. Crackers be singing like chorus, choppers be changing they pitch or something like that.
Yeah.
From,
Well, this
Also,
is just like,
I think you're missing the double entendre here because Chopper in His Face make him sing a C, like C note 100 making him tell the truth now. Like, there's a lot of good shit in that one bar.
Yeah. This is it's a fun track. It's got a good beat. It's funny.
What about Rainbow Six?
Oh yeah, that's okay. Hold on, let me go to the lyrics for it. So this song starts off with one of my favorite samples, "Cunty, cunty, cunty," and I've just been thinking about it all the time, especially if I catch myself acting cunty, cunty. I just start thinking about it. But this one, I love the chorus from Young Midpack. I like the way his voice sounds, but the fucking vocal sample, or the sample in the background of this song is the like weirdest crying in the world or whatever meme video. And it's like a guy going like, and like it's been slowed down and amplified. This fucking beat sounds like the apocalypse. It sounds like all of human suffering happening in like that cry is so just like fucked up and distorted and sad. And then, you know, like the Young Midpack sounding like really serious with the deeper voice on there plays into it really well. And then when JPEG finally comes in and it's like explosive. What you want?
This is the most aggressive song on the album. I think it's because there's plenty of other aggression, but it's like ironic joke aggression. Like, I know what I'm saying, and I'm saying it to piss you off. This is just, this
is the world is ending. Everything sucks. What do you need? Pills, crack, coke, weed. Like, And when you see him perform this live, it's another one where he's like shredding his throat, fucking screaming the lyrics. Yeah, this is like the most apocalyptically dark rap song I can think of. Like the one that would suit best to like imagery of Tokyo getting destroyed like by a giant monster, like nuclear explosion breath or something. He also talks about the alt-right in here again. The song is also by far the longest on the album.
Well, it also touches back to what we
it's-
were talking about on Baby I'm Bleeding, where it's another one of those like viral YouTube videos, but like changed in such a way that it takes on a new context, and instead of like being funny or like something that you would sympathize with, it's just aggression.
It's like legitimately horrifying.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's like, oh no, the world is ending. And I would say for me personally, like I was saying earlier that like I really think when I get to like past panic emoji, I kind of feel like I wake up again at the start of Whole Foods when he says, "Bitch, I shop at Whole Foods like I'm bougie." And then I like Macaulay Culkin, and I kind of drift out through Williamsburg, and I cannot fucking wait till Morrissey dies sometimes. And then when I hear that, then I'm fully back in, and I'm just like, oh no, like it's gonna be the song. Like this is the big. To me, this song kind of is the closer. Like the last two songs end up feeling tacked on to me just because of the fact that this song is so like final.
It's very definitive, yeah.
Yeah. So the next track, I was warned maybe I shouldn't say the name of it because I don't completely know what it means if I do.
I know what it means, and I'm not saying it on purpose because it's awful.
So it's called 1387. It was because he was born on the 13th month of 1987.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
It's let's just say it's a very special fraction about some very special beliefs that I don't hold.
Let's clear it up real quick. No matter what you hear or read or anything about anybody involved with this podcast, we are on Peggy's side of this song. Just so you know.
Yeah.
I think I'm on. I mean, I'd like to be on Peggy's side of life. I don't know if he wants me there, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Peggy's the kind of person who I could be like, man, I really want to be out there saying, like, oh, you got to listen to this dude. He's awesome. But at the same time, you know, you kind of wonder, would he want me to do that? Like, would he want the people I'm going to tell to listen to this? Would he
Yeah,
want
but
me to
he'll
listen
still
to this?
take
I don't
your
know.
white money. Like, don't.
Oh, yeah. He'll do that.
Yeah, of course.
He'll take my Spotify plays. Yeah, this is like I said, these last two songs are both like super aggressive tracks, but neither one of them stood out to me really hard, like on the bars or anything.
I'm
Like,
honestly
I'm thinking,
good floating over both of them.
Yeah, they're not terribly substantive, and there's not much to talk about other than everything else we've already said. Like, it's aggressive and it's fun.
I really like the beat on Curb Stomp because it's got those weird like I don't know if they're keys or bells or like whatever the hell they are, but like you've got the super heavy bass and then these really hazy noises and then him like screaming between the two, and it's an interesting way to create like something that feels sparse compared to his other beats, but just because each element is so fucking heavy by itself or so like, you know, distinct that it still sounds really good.
You know what
Again,
it
I don't
reminds
think
me
the
of?
lyrics are that interesting.
It reminds me a lot of. It feels like the inverse, and this is going to be a weird take. I'm sorry, but it feels like the inverse to White Lines from Atrocity Exhibition, where he's like attached onto the keys while he's rapping, like him just like flipping that and being on the outside of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I think again, I think he sounds good on this track. I just don't really care about anything he's saying necessarily. It's just trying to sound as hard as possible.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like.
So
I could be wrong. There
does.
might be more depth to it that I don't understand because obviously there's. Oh, let me rephrase that. There is more depth to every song on this album than I understand. But so you know, nothing I can say is going to be truly definitive. Obviously.
Well, I don't mean to put a hard cut at the end of this, but I want to know what all of you would rate it out of 10, and then let's see if we got an album we're going to talk about next week sitting up here at the end of the podcast.
I go first. I give this album a 9 out of 10. It's deeply influential to me. My album, The Unknown Tape, which is my most experimental one, was literally listens to JPEGMafia once, and like that was my immediate product that came out of it. And it sounds
Since we're here,
nothing
where
like
can
him,
we
but
find that album?
that would be on Bandcamp on trialofthegoldenwitch.bandcamp.com. It's the title is just like a symbol, and
that donation button works on that website, right?
I think so.
Well, everybody try it out real quick. We need to check.
But yeah, like the inspiration I got from hearing this was immediate and deep, and even if only a few of like the opening songs were really the ones that I had gravitated towards initially, I've listened to this album much more over time. I've gotten used to at least the songs that I'm not as big of a fan of. I don't know if I think it's his best album because I haven't listened to the ones after it or any of the other ones as much. And like Jesus Forgive Me, I Am a Thought is probably my favorite JPEGMafia song outright, other than Baby I'm Bleeding from the next album. LP has a bunch of songs I really like on it, and it's very consistent. But just the fact that this one blindsides you so many times with completely fucking different ideas at the start. I don't think any of his albums have shocked me as much as this one did when I heard it for the first time. So that is always going to make it like very special to me, even if I were to end up liking one of the other ones more. I'm
going to give this one between a 6 or a 7. In the words of Adam, I'm going to say it's more of a 7 than it is a 6. The thing about this album is I'm giving it a 6 and a 7 with love, by the way, but it's so front heavy. Like the back end, it just becomes forgettable. And it's not that there's not hard work and really impressive technical displays of beat making in it. It's just at the end of the day, same way with other rappers. Like it doesn't matter how technical you get, you have to keep it interesting. And I know this is a 10 out of 10 for someone else, so this is just my perspective. But the way I look at this album is the same way I look at, let's say, like shock websites in the mid 2000s, where at first you're not disgusted, but you're like intrigued while being pushed away, and then over time throughout this album you desensitize yourself to it, and it becomes like you listen to this album, it becomes difficult to listen to other albums that obviously have less effort. So that's definitely a whole lot of points in this. I don't want to make my 6 or a 7 sound like I'm discrediting this. This is an album far better than anything that I could make if I had 100 years.
It feels like you're judging the album on what you perceive as its own standard, rather than like comparing it to other albums by giving it a 6 or 7.
Of course, yeah. There's not a single album I could like pair up with this. So in a vacuum, whenever I listen to it, it's only my experience with the album, nothing else influencing it. And it's still, I don't think it's as good as it could be. But you see his later work, it's the same way Fantano took Good Kid, Mad City and gave it a 9 because in his heart, he knew that it could be better, even though it was pretty damn good. And then whenever T-Pab came out, that was a fucking 10. And I feel like this is one of those albums where you hear this, and then you hear like LP, or All My Heroes Are Cornballs, and you're like, this was the appetizer. Those are the fucking full courses.
Yeah,
you understand?
I can feel that for sure. Well, Dave.
Yeah. Oh man. I give this album as close to an 8 as possible without not being a 7. Because if I had heard this album when I was like 3 years younger, I would have literally memed JPEGMafia. That would have been like my
I know people who've done that.
Yeah.
Like, I know kids who heard this when they were like 14, 15, and they literally memed JPEGMafia. Sounding like my mini-me's, as he put it at one point. And his mini-me's do sound like that bar of pistol whip your wife first, that's chivalry.
Yeah. He's part of my enjoyment of him. A big part of it is kind of there's a weird like psychic talking shop that's going on.
Yeah.
As I'm listening to him, like he's demonstrating fairly clearly what producers can do to be like him, and he's just constantly giving an interview on his production style if you're listening close enough.
Yeah.
There's certain idiosyncrasies and certain pushing of como se dice, sorry.
I know the word you're thinking of, but I don't know it in Spanish.
Oh jeez. What is the word I'm thinking of? Hold on.
No, that was a joke. You said como se dice.
Yeah. Ah, shit. certain pushing of comfort levels, comfort zone things that he'll do that really every producer should try, like the found sound stuff especially. Like, it's one thing to sample a MIDI song, like to write MIDI from a keyboard. It's another to sample the keyboard, like doing key clacks and shit.
No, this reminds me so much. My brother made beats as well, so whenever we lived together for a while, we would just sit there and have like competitions with each other where we would hit like latest, like most recent video on YouTube, click it, sample it, and see who had the better beat. And this feels like he did that with him the whole album. Like, I see exactly what you're saying with challenging yourself.
Yeah, he's definitely a producer's producer. Speaking of producers, next week we are going to be reviewing Deltron 3030 by Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Kid Koala, and Dan the Automator.
Oh, that's such a good fucking choice.
So I hope y'all are excited for that. It's one of my favorite albums, one of the few 10s. Not to prejudice myself too much to the court, but
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Can I tell you something real quick?
go right ahead.
I've never heard that album a day in my life.
Wow.
I haven't heard 1 second of that album, so I'm so excited to come back next week and talk
this
to you
is going
guys
to be
about
exciting.
Yeah.
Because you probably, I haven't heard it a ton of times, so I'm thinking Dave's going to know a lot more than I do. But I will be excited to dive into it deeper because Del is one of my favorite artists. This is like his most popular release, like the one that's like held up the most over time because it's really high concept. But personally, Both Sides of the Brain is my favorite Del record. That's the one that has If You Must from Tony Hawk 3, which is how I first heard him, other than Gorillaz, where most people first
everyone heard of him.
But that'll be fun.
So that about wraps it up, everybody. We really appreciate you guys coming in and listening all this way out. We're going to go ahead and plug all of our stuff one more time, then we're going to say goodbye. I'll go ahead and start out. bateater.bandcamp.com. You can find me on @ILookTerrible2 on Twitter. What about you guys?
YouTube.com/Cranberry Dave, SoundCloud.com/Cranberry Dave. That's where you can find me and my music and my friends' music.
Yep. I'm on YouTube as YGG Studio, Yig Studio. We are here on the ASE Presents channel. You can find their Patreon, patreon.com/ASE Presents. Mine is patreon.com/Golden Witch Fire. I'm at Golden Witch Fire on all social media, and my music is on trialofthegoldenwitch.bandcamp.com. And check out the best hour of Trial of the Golden Witch album. It's some sort of made to be the introductory piece, if you will.
Shout out to Riley. Fuck the West Coast, fuck the East Coast. It's the Riley Coast, all coast. We'll catch you guys next week. Thank you so much.